Sometimes the person who walked away from you will come back, not because they finally see your worth, but because your silence made them finally see themselves. Do you know what really makes them beg to come back, my friends? It's not chasing them, not sending long messages, not proving your worth over and over again. It's doing the one thing they never believed you'd do, letting them feel what life is like without you. That's when the regret begins to whisper, then echo, then scream. Stay with me till the end of this one, because by the time we're done, you'll understand exactly why your calm silence is the loudest sound they'll ever hear. Hey, folks, imagine this. You're a flame, bright, steady, and warm. And for a long time, someone kept coming close just to feel your heat, but never cared enough to protect the fire they thought you'd burn forever, no matter how many times they walked away into the cold. But one day, that flame stopped waiting for their return. You didn't explode, you didn't beg, you simply burned elsewhere. And now, they stand in the dark, trying to figure out how to relight a fire they once took for granted. That's how regret begins, not with anger, but with absence. Here's the truth most people never tell you. Attraction doesn't die when you walk away. It's born there. People don't realize your value when you talk. They realize it when you go quiet, when you stop explaining, stop proving, stop performing for their comfort. You force their ego to face something terrifying, the reflection of what they lost. They thought your presence was permanent, like air, always there, always giving. But when you disappear, my friends, they finally learn that air only feels like nothing until you can't breathe. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." And that's exactly what you're doing when you stop reacting. You stop playing their game. You stop feeding their control. You become the calm they can't manipulate and the mystery they can't decode. They'll scroll through your stories, read old messages, and replay moments where they had your heart. And every time you don't respond, their ego takes another hit. Because silence, folks, is not empty. It's full of answers. You see, the human mind hates the unknown. That's why they check your profile, why they accidentally bump into your friends, why they test the waters with a text, because the moment you stop chasing, they start. The more you heal, the more they hurt. The more you glow up, the more their pride burns down. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about revenge. This is about alignment. You're not trying to make them regret losing you. You're simply living in a way that makes their regret unavoidable. You're becoming someone they can't reach anymore, not because you blocked them, but because you outgrew them. My friends, let them wonder, let them question, let them miss the version of you that was always available. Because the moment you stop chasing what's running, you start attracting what stays. That's the real secret. Peace attracts everything that panic repels. So before we start breaking down the steps, take a breath right now and say this out loud. I am done chasing. Type it in the comments so the world knows your energy just shifted. You're not the same person who used to beg to be seen. You're the one they'll beg to be near. Stay with me, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get started. Number 1, the moment you stop chasing, everything shifts. When you stop running after what's walking away, you give destiny a chance to turn around on its own. My friends, I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a long road, chasing after someone who keeps glancing back, just enough to keep you moving, but never enough to let you catch up. You keep running, thinking that if you just show how much you care, how much effort you have, they'll finally turn around. But every step you take toward them is another step away from yourself, and one day you finally stop running. You stand still. you realize that maybe the chase isn't proving love. It's proving fear. That's the moment everything changes, because when you stop chasing, the energy flips, the power dynamic shifts. They thought they had control because they knew you'd always run. They relied on it. It fed their ego like oxygen feeds fire. But when you stop, when you take that first still breath of peace, it's like snatching the oxygen away. Suddenly, the fire they had, the attention, the validation, the illusion of being desired, starts to die out. And for the first time, they feel the silence that they thought would never come. You see, folks, chasing isn't love. It's fear disguised as devotion. It's that tiny voice in your head whispering, "If I stop trying, I'll lose them." But the truth is, every time you chase someone who's walking away, you're teaching them that they can keep walking and you'll still follow. That's not love. That's training someone to take you for granted. Have you ever wondered why people start to act strange the moment you stop chasing? Why suddenly, after you've been ignored or replaced, they start popping up in subtle ways, viewing your stories, liking old posts, asking around about you? It's because your stillness disturbs their ego. It sends a signal they can't ignore. You're not in control anymore. When you stop chasing, you become the mirror that forces them to face who they really are without your energy keeping them inflated. Think of a balloon. As long as you're blowing air into it, it stays full, round, impressive. But the second you stop, it starts to deflate. That's what happens when you stop chasing. You stop feeding their sense of superiority, their comfort in being wanted without effort. They'll act like they don't care, but inside, they're shrinking. They're wondering what happened. They're realizing that the energy that once made them feel powerful was never theirs. It was yours all along. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's what this is about, taking back your mind, your focus, your calm. Because let's be honest, the hardest part isn't walking away. It's staying away when your heart still wants to explain, when your pride still wants to prove a point. That's the trap. The moment you break your silence just to remind them what they lost, you hand them the power again. You reset the cycle. Some of you are thinking, but what if they forget me? Or what if my silence pushes them away forever? That fear is normal, but that fear is also the lie that keeps you chained. People don't forget energy that touched their soul. They only pretend to until silence forces them to remember. They might move on fast, they might flaunt someone new, but deep down they're still haunted by the version of you that gave without limits. And when you rise without them, that memory becomes their mirror. Here's another truth. They're not afraid of losing you. They're afraid of you realizing you never needed them. That's what breaks them. Because once you stop chasing, you stop validating their illusion that they were the prize. You start teaching them the truth they refused to see. You were the peace. You were the stability. You were the safe place they'll spend months trying to recreate in others. But let's not sugarcoat it. It's hard, folks. It's hard to go quiet when everything inside you screams to reach out. It's hard to stay strong when the loneliness creeps in and the mind starts playing tricks, whispering, "Maybe if I just say one thing." That's the test. Silence isn't weakness. It's self-respect disguised as distance. It's choosing to let your absence do the talking while you rebuild the version of yourself that forgot its value chasing validation. It's going to hurt at first because your old self, the one addicted to proving worth, will fight back. That's why healing feels like withdrawal. You're detoxing from emotional dependence. But one day, you'll wake up, check your phone, and realize you didn't even think about them that morning. That's when you'll know the power shifted completely. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom doesn't come from getting them back. It comes from not needing them back. When you stop chasing, you begin living again. You start noticing things, peaceful mornings, deeper breaths, real laughter. You start glowing differently. You become scarce in a world addicted to validation, and that scarcity makes your presence magnetic. Let them see your silence as distance. You know it's discipline. Let them confuse your peace with pride. You know it's protection. Let them think you're gone for good, because the truth is, you're not gone, you're reborn. My friends, it's time to break the lie that love is proven by pursuit. Real love doesn't require chasing. It meets you halfway. It respects silence. It grows without begging. So when they realize you're not running anymore, they'll finally have to ask themselves the question that will haunt them. Did I lose them? Or did I lose myself by taking them for granted? And that's where the shift begins. Not in them, but in you. Because the moment you stop chasing what isn't yours, you start attracting what's meant to stay. So take this moment right now to make it official. Type this in the comments. I stop chasing, I start rising. Show them, show yourself. Show the world that you're done fighting for people who made peace feel like a privilege. Because this is your turning point. The moment where your silence becomes your story, your calm becomes your comeback, and your strength becomes their biggest regret. Stay with me, because in the next part, I'll reveal what really happens in their mind when you stop chasing, and why it haunts them more than your words ever could. Number 2. Why their new person isn't what you think. Sometimes people don't move on, they just move in circles that look new until the silence reminds them who they truly miss. My friends, I want you to sit with this truth. When they leave you and jump into something new right away, it's not love, it's anesthesia. It's their attempt to numb the discomfort of losing the energy that once made them feel alive. They don't fall for a new person, they fall for distraction. They're not healing, they're hiding. And the moment you stop chasing, that distraction begins to fade like a cheap perfume trying to mask an old wound. You see, people rarely replace you. They try to recreate the feeling they had when you were around. They'll look for your kindness in someone else's smile, your energy in someone else's laugh, your depth in someone else's eyes. But surface-level connections can't hold the same gravity. It's like trying to replace a thunderstorm with a drizzle. It might seem easier to stand in, but it doesn't leave the same mark on the earth. Now, I know what's running through your mind, my friends. You're wondering, if they found someone else, does that mean they've forgotten me? If they look happy, does that mean I never mattered? Let's break that illusion right now. What they show the world isn't always what they feel inside. Those smiling photos, that sudden glow, that's ego doing damage control. It's their way of saying, look, I'm fine, while their subconscious whispers, why do I still feel empty? The truth is, when people move on too fast, they don't heal, they just delay their healing. The rebound becomes a band-aid over a wound they refuse to clean, and the longer they avoid it, the deeper it festers. What they once called freedom will start to feel like chaos. Because peace doesn't come from replacing people, it comes from facing yourself, and your silence forces them to do exactly that. Imagine this, folks. A person leaves a warm home because they think the thrill of the outside world will be more exciting. But the moment the weather turns cold, they realize comfort isn't something you find. It's something you lose when you take it for granted. That's what your silence does. It lets the winter of their choices set in. At first, they'll feel the rush of something new, the dopamine, the validation, the excitement of novelty. But novelty fades, and when it does, they'll start remembering the one thing that can't be faked: connection. They'll start noticing how their new person doesn't listen like you did, doesn't laugh the same way, doesn't feel like home. They'll replay your old conversations and realize that what they called boredom was actually peace. What they called predictable was consistency, and what they called too much was actually love that expected to be respected. Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them." And right now, their view is distorted by ego. They think they've upgraded, but upgrades without emotional growth are just distractions in disguise. And the longer they stay distracted, the heavier reality will hit when your silence starts echoing through every part of their new life. You don't have to post anything. You don't have to prove anything. Your peace is your loudest announcement. Your glow-up will whisper louder than any status update. While they're busy forcing happiness, you're quietly building it. And here's the irony. Eventually, their new person will start to feel your shadow in the room. They'll sense that they're being compared to someone who doesn't even speak anymore. That's how deep your energy imprints on someone who once thought you were replaceable. Let them show off if they must. Let them post. Let them pretend. Every fake smile they share is one more attempt to convince themselves that they didn't mess up the best thing they ever had. And the longer you stay silent, the louder that inner voice gets. Maybe I made a mistake. But let's be honest, it's not easy watching it happen. You'll see them happy and your heart will twist. You'll feel that ache of, why not me? But remember, you're seeing the highlight reel, not the reality. What looks like laughter could be denial. What looks like moving on could just be them running in emotional circles. And that's why your silence is so powerful. You're not chasing them, you're letting life do the teaching. You're not begging for clarity, you're letting time expose truth. The more you detach, the clearer they'll see what they lost. Because while they're out there searching for another version of you, you're busy becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. It's not revenge, it's not punishment, it's evolution. You're not trying to make them regret losing you. You're simply becoming someone they'll never get access to again. That's the difference between ego and growth. Ego tries to prove worth. Growth quietly radiates it. So, if you find yourself staring at their new life, wondering if you've been replaced, remind yourself of this. They can copy the pattern, but they can't duplicate the presence. What you gave came from a place they didn't understand. And until they grow, they'll keep mistaking excitement for connection and chaos for chemistry. They thought leaving you meant finding freedom, but what they'll realize, slowly, painfully, inevitably, is that freedom without peace feels like noise, and when the noise fades, the silence they left behind will become unbearable. So let them live their illusion, my friends. You just keep building your reality. Keep healing, keep glowing, keep smiling for real this time. Not to prove a point, but because you finally understand one. You were never in competition. You were the lesson. And when that realization hits them, they'll come running back, not for attention, but for peace. Not for the old you, but for the version they'll never meet again. Take a deep breath right now and write this in the comments. I am irreplaceable. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your value doesn't fade just because someone couldn't handle its depth. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll uncover how the mind starts to panic when the silence turns into reality, and why that's when they finally start to break. Number 3. The law of emotional contrast. People don't really miss you first, they miss the way they felt when they were with you. My friends, this is one of the deepest truths most people will never admit. When someone walks away from you, they think they're chasing something better, but what they're really doing is chasing a different feeling. And that's where emotional contrast comes in. The law that quietly makes them regret leaving you without you saying a single word. You see, life is built on contrast. We only know light because we've experienced darkness. We only understand peace after chaos, and we only realize value after loss. Emotional contrast works the same way. They couldn't see your worth while they had you because their world was full of you. You were constant, steady, reliable, like oxygen. They took in your love without noticing, the same way we breathe without thinking. But when you leave, when your silence fills the space that your presence once did, suddenly they're gasping for what they used to take for granted. Imagine drinking water every day. It's ordinary, right? You don't think much of it. But go a single day in the desert, my friends, and suddenly that same water becomes sacred. That's what emotional contrast does. It transforms what was normal into what feels irreplaceable. Your calm, your warmth, your understanding, your late-night conversations, they all become haunting reminders of what balance used to feel like. At first, they don't notice. They're distracted by the excitement of change. They tell themselves, "I'm free now, I'm happy." But excitement without depth is just noise. It fills the silence for a while, but eventually, noise becomes exhausting. And when the chaos of novelty fades, they're left facing a question they didn't expect. Why doesn't this feel the same? That's when emotional contrast hits. Because you, my friends, weren't just someone. They built emotional habits around you. You were their peace after a long day, their comfort in confusion, their mirror when they couldn't see themselves clearly. When they walked away, they thought they could just replace you with someone new. But habits don't disappear overnight. Their mind still expects your calm, their soul still searches for your frequency. But now they're surrounded by static. Seneca once said, "No man enjoys the possession of anything valuable unless he has first known the want of it." That's the truth they're learning now. You were valuable, but your consistency made them blind to it. And your absence is the teacher that reveals it. They thought you were replaceable because they were addicted to ease, to having you there no matter what. But silence doesn't coddle the ego. Silence reveals reality. And here's the irony. They'll start thinking about you the most when they're with someone else, because that's when the contrast becomes undeniable. They'll notice how the new person doesn't understand their silence like you did, how the laughter doesn't hit as deep, how the affection feels like performance instead of connection. They'll laugh, but it'll echo differently. They'll talk, but it won't feel safe. Because once you've experienced real peace, chaos feels foreign, even if it's dressed like fun. But let's be real, it's not easy for you either. Watching them pretend they've moved on while you sit in silence feels unfair. You'll ask yourself, how can they act so fine when I'm still hurting? The truth is, they're not fine. They're just distracted. They're just louder. But their noise doesn't mean peace. It means avoidance. That's why emotional contrast works in your favor, but only if you stay silent long enough to let it sink in. If you chase, you interrupt the process. If you explain, you erase the mystery. But if you stay calm, Time does the heavy lifting. Your absence becomes the weight that presses on their conscience, little by little, until it's unbearable. They'll remember your patience in the middle of their new arguments. They'll miss your honesty when they realize how shallow the conversations have become. And one day, they'll scroll through your old messages, not because they miss the words, but because they miss who they were when they had your energy around them. That's the power of contrast. It doesn't hit all at once. It sneaks in. It builds slowly. It starts with curiosity, then turns into nostalgia, then regret. You become a ghost, not the kind that haunts their house, but the kind that lives quietly inside their peace of mind. And the more they try to replace you, the more they realize that they're not looking for a new person. They're looking for the emotional security they lost. Epictetus taught that no great thing is created suddenly, and neither is regret. It matures over time. The same way they once got comfortable ignoring you, they'll now get used to missing you. That's how karma works. It balances energy by experience. They taught you detachment. Now life will teach them appreciation. So, my friends, don't fear their silence. Don't panic over their smiles. Let emotional contrast do what explanations can't. Because eventually they'll realize something powerful. Your absence was never revenge. It was reflection. You didn't punish them. You just gave them space to see the difference between temporary thrill and timeless peace. And when that realization hits, it won't be gentle. It'll come late at night, in moments of stillness, when their mind stops running and their heart starts whispering, "I shouldn't have let them go." But by then, you'll already be in a different chapter of your life, calmer, stronger, wiser. You don't need to prove they lost something good. Life will handle that for you. All you need to do is keep building, keep glowing, keep becoming the version of yourself that peace built, not pain. Take this moment, breathe deeply, and say it with me. My absence is my power. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world that you're no longer fighting to be seen. You've become impossible to forget. And stay with me, because in the next part, we'll uncover how scarcity turns your silence into magnetism, and why the less they hear from you, the more their mind starts to crave your energy again. Number 4. The scarcity principle of attention. What's always available feels ordinary, but what disappears becomes divine. My friends, this one hits deep. You see, people only start to value your attention when it's no longer theirs to have. That's the unspoken law of human nature, the scarcity principle. The rarer something becomes, the more our mind exaggerates its worth. And your attention, your time, your energy, that's the most expensive currency they ever had access to. The moment you pull it back, their ego begins to panic. For a long time, they were addicted to your availability. They got used to your instant replies, your emotional support, your forgiveness. You became their emotional safety net. And as long as you kept giving, they kept taking, not out of love, but out of comfort, because nothing feels safer to the ego than knowing someone will always be there, no matter how badly it behaves. But the moment that certainty disappears, the illusion of control collapses. Suddenly, your attention, something they once dismissed, becomes the very thing they crave the most. It's like oxygen, my friends. You don't appreciate it until it's gone, and once it's gone, even a single breath feels like a miracle. That's what happens when you stop giving your attention freely. They start gasping for the emotional oxygen you used to provide effortlessly. Think about it like this. Imagine a song you loved so much you played it on repeat. At first, it was magical. You felt it deeply. But after hearing it too many times, it lost its spark. It became background noise. That's exactly what happens when someone gets too much of your energy without earning it. They stop hearing the music. But when the song ends, when the silence takes its place, their mind starts craving the melody again. That's the scarcity principle at work. It reawakens value through absence. Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And your attention, my friends, was something they never controlled. It was something you chose to give. That's why, when you take it away, it shakes their foundation. They realize that the power they thought they had was never real. It was borrowed from your consistency. Now, some of you might ask, but won't pulling away make me look cold? Won't they think I stopped caring? And the truth is, they will think that at first, but that's exactly what makes it work. You're teaching them what emotional boundaries look like. You're teaching them that love without respect isn't sustainable. You're teaching them that your attention has to be earned, not demanded. Let me break a lie for you. Attention doesn't equal love. You can love someone deeply and still withdraw your attention when it's being abused. That's not punishment. That's self-respect. Constant attention breeds complacency. Scarcity breeds appreciation. It's the same reason we treasure the sunrise. It's not there all day. When you go quiet, when you stop checking in, when you stop explaining yourself, they'll feel the withdrawal like an addict without their fix, because your attention was their validation, their mirror, their reminder that they mattered. And when that disappears, they start questioning themselves. Did I push too far? Did I lose them for good? That uncertainty begins to eat at their confidence. They'll start replaying memories, scrolling through old messages, looking for any sign that you might still care, but all they'll find is silence, and that silence becomes louder than any words you could have spoken. And this is where your growth begins, because the scarcity of your attention doesn't just transform them, it transforms you. The more you pull your focus back to yourself, the stronger your energy becomes. You start noticing how much of your peace was being spent trying to fix what didn't want to be healed. You realize that your attention is sacred. It should go where it's respected, not where it's drained. You start feeding that same attention into your goals, your body, your dreams. You start giving it to people who actually reciprocate. And the crazy part, that's when your attraction skyrockets, because people can sense when your attention has become rare. It's in your posture, your calmness, your silence. They'll feel it even if you never say a word. Let me tell you something powerful. When you become scarce, you become significant, not because you're playing games, but because you're finally respecting your energy. When you were chasing, you were operating from fear. But now, your silence operates from value. You're teaching the world that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And of course, it's not easy. There will be days when your heart wants to break the silence, just to feel something familiar. That's your old self begging for attention too. But remind yourself, every time you choose peace over panic, you're reprogramming your mind. You're breaking emotional habits that once made you a slave to their validation. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And bravery, my friends, is not in chasing. It's in staying still when every emotion tells you to run. It's in letting your absence teach lessons your words never could. Because eventually they'll come to see your attention for what it truly was, a gift, not a guarantee. So, when they start testing the waters, liking your old posts, trying to bait your attention back, don't give in. Stay calm, stay focused. Let them feel the vacuum of your energy, because the longer you hold it, the more valuable it becomes. the more they'll realize that the person they once ignored is the only one who ever made them feel whole. My friends, I want you to write this in the comments right now. My attention is earned, not taken. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your energy is no longer on sale. You are the prize, and the silence they're feeling right now is the sound of you finally remembering that. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going even deeper into what happens when silence turns into reflection and how your absence becomes the mirror they can't escape. Number 5. The silent mirror. Let them feel themselves. Silence is the mirror that never lies. It reflects people exactly as they are, not as they pretend to be. My friends, this is the part that hurts them the most, even though they'll never admit it. When you go silent, when you stop defending yourself, when you stop trying to prove your intentions, you turn into a mirror. And this mirror doesn't flatter. It doesn't argue. It doesn't edit the truth to protect their feelings. It simply reflects. Your silence forces them to see themselves clearly, without the comfort of your explanations, without the distraction of your voice softening their guilt. At first, they'll pretend not to care. They'll say, "I'm fine. I needed this space." They might even act like they're happier without you. But deep down, your silence starts echoing in their mind like a hallway they can't find the end of. Every time they look for you and don't find you there, the mirror stares back with a question they can't answer. What did I do to lose something that once felt so certain? It's strange, isn't it? When you were speaking, they weren't listening. But now that you're silent, they can't stop hearing you. Every word you used to say is replaying in their head, your warnings, your kindness, your "I told you so" moments they once brushed off. They'll begin to see how much they took your energy for granted. Because silence, my friends, isn't the absence of communication. It's the loudest form of it. It tells them, you've lost access. Imagine standing in front of a mirror after a storm. The mirror shows every scar, every bruise, every truth that the chaos left behind. That's what your silence does. It reflects the wreckage of their choices. And reflection hurts more than rejection. Because rejection can be blamed on someone else, but reflection forces accountability. When you stop reacting, you remove their ability to shift blame. Before, when you argued or pleaded, they could say, "You're overreacting," or "You're too emotional." But silence leaves them nothing to attack. There's no scene to twist, no words to misinterpret, no argument to win. Just quiet. And quiet makes them sit with the one thing they've been running from: themselves. You see, folks, silence is not passive. It's power in disguise. It's the kind of power that doesn't scream to be understood. It just is. Because the truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs space. And that space, the one created by your distance, becomes their teacher. They'll start noticing the little things that used to comfort them, the messages you no longer send, the morning greetings that stopped coming, the emotional support that's no longer waiting at the other end of the phone. Every absence becomes a reminder of presence. Every silence becomes a weight they can't lift. And here's the part most people don't understand. When you go silent, it's not about punishing them. It's about protecting your peace. It's about showing them that you no longer play the role of their emotional cushion. You've given enough chances. You've carried enough blame. And now the silence is your boundary, a boundary that says, if you want my energy, you'll have to rise to meet it. Epictetus once said, "If someone speaks badly of you, live so that no one believes them." That's the essence of your silence. You're no longer explaining yourself. You're embodying yourself. You're not trying to clear your name. You're becoming someone whose actions speak louder than defense ever could. And as you grow calmer, stronger, and more self-contained, your silence turns into a mirror that exposes every insecurity they tried to hide behind confidence. Think of it like this. When you stop trying to fix someone, you become the proof of what they broke. They see you moving differently. They see you glowing in peace instead of drowning in chaos, and that vision haunts them. Because they start realizing you were never the problem. You were the balance. You were the one holding everything together while they mistook your calm for weakness. But now your silence has flipped the script. They'll begin to feel small in the presence of your peace. They'll start questioning their choices, doubting their ego, wondering why their new life feels hollow despite looking full. That's what reflection does. It turns arrogance into awareness. Yet this part isn't easy for you either, my friends. Silence tests your patience. You'll want to break it. You'll want to explain yourself just one more time to make them understand how deeply you cared, but resist that urge. Because every word you say now steals power from the message your silence is delivering perfectly. The truth is, the longer you remain silent, the clearer your image becomes in their mind, not as the person they argued with, but as the person they can't forget. Silence removes the noise and leaves only memory. And memory, when mixed with regret, becomes one of the most powerful emotional storms a human can feel. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's your mission now. Don't argue for your worth. Embody it. Don't chase understanding. Become peace. Because when you choose silence, you're not retreating. You're rising above the battlefield. You're stepping out of their chaos and back into your clarity. So let them stare into the mirror you've become. Let them see the reflection of their choices without your voice cushioning the impact. Because eventually they'll realize that losing you wasn't just losing a person. It was losing their reflection of calm, stability, and truth. Take a deep breath, my friends. This is your moment of power. Type this in the comments right now. My silence is my reflection. Show them, show yourself, show the world that your silence isn't empty. It's a mirror polished by peace, and the only ones it hurts are those who can't stand to face their own reflection. And stay with me, because next we'll talk about how to transform that silence into evolution. The kind that doesn't just make them regret losing you, but makes you grateful they did. Number 6. Become the emotion they can't replace. The rarest energy in this world isn't beauty or charm, it's peace. My friends, when you reach this stage, the game changes. This is no longer about them seeing your worth. It's about you stepping into it so fully that they can never match your energy again when you begin to rebuild yourself. Quietly, steadily, without posting about it, without seeking validation, you become unforgettable. Because peace, real, grounded peace, has a vibration that nothing and no one can replicate. Think about this. They can mimic your look, your style, your words, but they can never duplicate your energy, because your energy came from experience, from the tears you shed, the nights you doubted, the moments you almost texted but didn't. You forged strength in silence. They found distraction. You went inward, they went elsewhere. And now, your calmness isn't just attractive, it's haunting. You see, they don't miss you first. They miss the emotion you gave them. They miss how it felt to be seen without having to perform, to be loved without having to ask, to feel at peace without earning it. And when that kind of energy leaves their life, it leaves a permanent emptiness that no new relationship can fill. They'll laugh with others, but it won't hit the same. They'll hold someone else's hand, but still remember how yours felt. Steady, sure, safe. They thought replacing you would heal them. But how can you replace a soul that mirrored yours when you didn't even know who you were yet? You can't. You can copy gestures, but not energy. You can imitate behavior, but not connection. Because connection is born where two souls meet without pretense, and they've already used up that part of themselves with you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and while they've been thinking about appearances, you've been painting your soul with growth, with stillness, with boundaries." That's why your silence glows now. It's not empty, it's golden. You've transformed pain into presence. My friends, I know healing doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels lonely, slow, unfair. You'll look at them and wonder how they moved on while you're still here trying to rebuild. But understand this, they've moved outward. You're moving upward. And growth that rises silently always outlasts the noise that moves quickly. You're not behind, you're ascending. Imagine a mountain. At the base, it's crowded, people climbing, shouting, rushing. But at the top, it's quiet, it's calm. The air is thinner because not everyone can breathe up there. That's where you're headed. When you rise into peace, most people can't follow. Not because you're cruel, but because your frequency no longer matches chaos. They'll start to notice it. They'll look at your pictures and sense something different. Not sadness, not bitterness, but detachment. They'll see the calm in your face and mistake it for pride. But you know the truth. It's freedom. It's the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs to be chosen to feel chosen. Seneca said, "The greatest revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." You're living that truth now. You're not angry. You're not proving you're not seeking closure. You're radiating the energy of someone who's too focused on purpose to chase people who live in patterns. That, my friends, is what makes them panic, because the version of you that once begged to be understood has evolved into the version they can't even reach. They'll replay old conversations, trying to decode where they lost you. They'll test you with messages, hoping to reignite the same emotion. But you won't react. Not out of spite, but because your peace has become your standard. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your light. Some people were only meant to witness it once and spend the rest of their lives missing it. And when that realization hits them, when they finally understand that the love they once took for granted has become untouchable, they'll beg, not with words, but with actions. They'll try to show up, to prove, to change. But by then, you'll see the truth clearly. You no longer need them to validate what you've already become. That's the beauty of this phase. You're not doing it to make them regret. You're doing it to make yourself proud, because the real victory isn't in making them miss you. It's in becoming so whole that their absence no longer creates emptiness. You'll wake up one day, look at your reflection, and realize that the person you were chasing was always you. So, my friends, let this be your transformation season. Pour your attention back into yourself. Take that same energy you once gave away so easily and invest it into your goals, your body, your peace, your joy. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, makes people regret losing you more than watching you live the life they were too blind to build with you. Take a breath right now. Look forward, not backward. You are not who they remember. You are who you're becoming. Type this in the comments right now. I am the peace they can't replace. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're done proving your worth. You're living it. And if this message hit home, if it reminded you of your power, your purpose, and your peace, don't forget to hit that like button, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe to stay on this journey with me. Because your story isn't ending here. It's only just beginning.